Hey crafty people, it's Tasha and I'm back with another video tutorial for Pear Blossom Press. Today I'm welcoming Christmas card making season with this adorable North Pole scene card with not one but two interactive elements. For today's supplies I've got a whole bunch of Catherine Pooler inks, some of these that I use and some that I don't, and VersaFine Onyx Black, Wow clear gloss embossing powder, some circle dies, and then Pear Blossom Press Twinkle Lights, Snap and Slide elements, and sticky spots. Then I've also got a sentiment stamp set with coordinating dies and two Christmas themed sets with coordinating dies, all from Heffy Doodle. Okay, let's dive in. So we're going to start with the background. I've got an A2 panel of Nina Solar White £80 and I'm using domed foam ink blending sponges. I'm using Something Borrowed, suede shoes and dress blues to create a nice ombre that's going to become my night sky. Ink blending is definitely one of those trust the process type techniques. It also takes patience and an acceptance that it's probably going to look pretty awful at first. So I'm blocking out the colour and you can see that it is so patchy right now. You can see the white of the paper clearly showing through, but for this bit it's fine. Now as I work through my shades, I'm always making sure that I overlap the colours to eventually get a smooth blend. You can see that I'm always working in circular motions and I'm starting off my panel every time. I'm loading up my sponge with ink but tapping it onto the glass mat before taking it to my panel, and that just helps to even out that ink across the whole surface area. So once I've got my panel covered in a rough layer of the three shades, I can start to increase the intensity and even that colour out. So I'm going to go back through the shades, still working in exactly the same way. So this is why I said it takes patience to ink blend a full panel like this, and I think it can be really tempting to stop somewhere here and feel dejected about your ability, but you have to push past that and keep going. Layer up that colour, working back and forth between shades, making sure to clean off your surface though so that you aren't pulling that dark shade into the lighter side. Now if you want a much quicker option, try starting with a panel of coloured cardstock to begin with. Now go for a colour similar to the lightest ink that I've used here and then just add the darker shades straight onto that. To further intensify that navy side, I'm pulling in a little bit of a blue purple shade just on the edges of the panel. Now, dye inks like this will continue smoothing out as they dry, so I'm happy with how this is looking for now. Let's add some stars to our night sky. I've got this metallic silver watercolour brush marker from Altenew, and after giving it a really good shake to mix it up, I'm just tapping it over my panel to splatter it. Now I can set that whole panel aside to dry fully. I really loosely cut some snowbanks to form my ground, and whilst I want them to be white, I do want to add some subtle shadowing just to make them look a bit more real. Less is more here, so I'm gently sweeping on some light grey, and it might look like nothing's happening, but if you take that bit over to a white panel, you can see just how much of a difference it really makes. I'm adding the shading to the top of each snowbank, and then I'm also adding some extra to the one that I'm going to have in the back. Okay, now let's stamp those images. I'm using that same £80 Nina cardstock and stamping in VersaFine Onyx Black ink. This takes a little longer to dry, which makes it the perfect base to add clear gloss embossing powder. And this is going to encapsulate that ink and stop it from smearing once I start colouring. I stamped a whole bunch of images from both sets and then a simple sentiment too. Now I'm embossing all of the images with clear gloss, but I've covered the sentiment in Wow polished silver. I'm actually going to skip the colouring today for my video, but I used my Copic markers in a variety of colours. So with the magic of YouTube, I have fully coloured and die cut images. Let's begin assembling. I'm using both layers of snow to make sure that that background layer is in the right place. And then I'm going to use some low tack tape to keep it in place whilst I glue that layer flat to my night sky. Then I'll have my Christmas tree on the foreground layer, but I need to create some access to allow my lights to feed through from the back of the panel. So I'm using one of the smallest circle dies to cut that access port directly from the background. So I made sure that the circle will be in a place that's going to be completely covered by the tree itself. I also need to cut a hole from the foreground snow layer, and that's going to be where my snap and slide sits. This circle die is a little bit too big, but the next size down wouldn't be big enough. It's a bit frustrating, but we'll make it work. Let's start working on those twinkle lights. I've inserted my battery to the housing and tested the lights, and now I'm feeding the 3 lights through from the back of the main panel, because this is where the housing and switch will live. To keep the lights and housing in place, I'm adding a small piece of double-sided adhesive and adhering the main bit directly to the back of my panel. Now we can build up the rest of the panel with plenty of Pear Blossom Press foam tape. So this tape is double thickness and it's the perfect depth for the light packs, but if you are using regular foam tape, then you will need to double it up. I'm applying the tape across the whole panel, and then once the card is finished, this will adhere the panel directly to an A2 card base. We'll leave the lights for a little bit now whilst we get the snap and slide element fitted. It is so easy. So you need the 2 pieces, one goes behind the panel and the other then clicks onto it from the front. Simple. It's done. This time I'm using it to create a fun cartwheeling motion for my cheeky Christmas elf. Now, I love using the new sticky spots to adhere my image onto the base, and that's really all it takes. Now, to pull this layer forward, I'm adding more foam tape to the back of this, and then just to corral my cheeky elf a little bit, given that this hole is a bit too big really, I'm adding a couple of small foam pieces that pin it in a little, but are still going to allow free and easy movement. Then I can adhere this into place on my panel. I've got some strings of lights to decorate my Christmas tree, so I'm gluing them into place. I like how the dies cut out some of the swirls, but I don't want all of that white showing through, so I'm going to actually colour it with the same green markers that I used on the tree itself. This is going to camouflage the lights and help them to blend in so much better. Now I need to create the holes that my lights will show through, and I have the tiny hole punch which will be perfect for the job. I'm punching right through one of the bulbs from each tier, then I can position one of the LEDs behind each one, and I like to hold them in place with my reverse action tweezers whilst I apply some double-sided tape to hold them in place. Okay, it was at this point that, unbeknownst to me, my phone decided to just stop recording and turn itself off instead. Unfortunately, I was much too deep in the crafty zone to realise until I had completely finished my card. Gutted doesn't quite cover it. I'm going to take it apart a bit and try and show you how I put it together. And whilst it sucks, it does give me a chance to show off that Pear Blossom Press foam tape. It's removable for up to 30 minutes after application. So I was able to carefully peel the tree off so that you can see the 3 LEDs in place, held by some double-sided adhesive and then foam adhesive to build up the tree, leaving the bottom, which overlaps the foreground, clear of foam tape. The excess wires are just carefully twisted and adhered behind the panel. I followed the same hack to colour the die cut edges of my images to match the background once I had everything in place. I also stamped a small push onto the background directly on top of the button to let my recipient know where to turn on the lights. I adhered clear embellishments over each of the lights and then covered the rest of the coloured lights with some clear glitter marker. That's my card finished. Now, I'm so sorry that I missed some of the process, but I hope that you were able to see enough to give you some inspiration using these interactive elements in your own Christmas cards. They are sure to bring some magic and joy to your recipient. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, just all the things, and thank you for spending this time with me today. Have a lovely, happy, safe, and wonderful week. Stay crafty. Bye.